So, one of the aspects of a forest knot is that of a naturalist that is also a participant in the ecosystem and is trying to guide and help towards greater biodiversity and healthier and deeper soil. And so, one of the ways that a forest knot does this is kind of by taking on the role of a beaver or an elephant, kind of learning from species who have already been interacting with forests, seeing what they do, and taking on that role, especially in areas of the world that don't have these animals. So, if you don't know, a beaver cuts down trees, obviously. Elephants knock over trees. And for example, in Pleistocene, or maybe even earlier, I don't remember, in Europe, there were ponies that would feed on the barks of birches and other trees, thereby killing them. So, what these species do is that they clear the forest, making it a little bit less thick, opening up the canopy so it's not full shit, opening up the canopy so that it's not full shade, and offering light to all these other species, whether they're bushes, herbaceous, little ground covers like scurrying across the floor. Because for me, a forest knot is a bringer of light. We're looking for that filtered light where it's not complete full sun, but it's not dark either. And as the sun moves across the horizon, there might be areas that get 3 to 4 hours of light, some get 5 to 6 hours of light, and some get 8 to 9 hours of light. Something that I always talk about in my courses that I read and that I hope is true, if someone has the science on this, because I haven't read it in like 10 years. What I read was that even the light-thirsty species, like say a tomato or corn, aren't going to photosynthesize more than, let's say, 9 hours in a day. And there are plenty of like garden vegetable plants we might be familiar with that with 6 to 8 hours of light a day, especially in summer, late spring, early fall, they're going to be completely happy and get all the photosynthesis they need. So for me, one of the ways that we can make our systems more efficient is by simply realizing that 30 to 40% of the sunshine that's falling on our crops and on our woodland monocultures is going to waste. It's not being photosynthesized. So if we start combining plants, shrubs, and trees of different heights, then we're going to take better advantage of the light. And we're also going to save water because that part shade is offering, obviously, a nice cool time where there isn't evapotranspiration, where the soil isn't being heated up, and so water is saved. There's less evaporation. So for me, this is just a really fun and cool job of sort of like weaving these ecosystems that have like just enough light for the things that are underneath the highest level of trees, which I would call the canopy. So yeah, forest knots are literally the bringers of light. So in this video, I'm just going to provide 3 examples of different areas where I am bringing the light using different sort of fast-growing, high-volume organic matter producing trees. In one space, I have a row of red alders, and it's kind of syntropically inspired. I really like in syntropic agriculture how they prune nitrogen fixing and or fast growing trees really high, and so you get that forest effect of tall trees, but you still have plenty of light getting in. They're quite tall already now. They're about 7 years old, and I am just pruning them up so that light gets in underneath them. In the second example, I'm going to be talking about a space where I have a tiny potato patch in a little vegetable garden area, and I've surrounded it with willow trees, which I've hurdled with hazel rods. So like I've fenced it with hazel rods, weaving in and out of the willow. And then in the third example, I have a little fallow garden plot, a little space that I've intended for gardening, but haven't been using for the past few years. So to the south, I have an empress tree, which is very fast growing, very wide, lots of organic matter. which I'm going to prune now and provide a bunch of mulch and organic matter for that garden plot while now opening up the light that it needs to be cultivated. So what am I doing here? I kind of mix and match techniques and I apply them in ways that I think is sometimes I apply them in ways that is just more appropriate to my climate and what I'm doing, and sometimes I apply them in ways where I am just lazy and do less work. So I really like syntropic agriculture, but I haven't set up like a whole succession where one plant follows another plant follows another plant and I'm chopping and dropping every day all day because I don't have the um, stamina. I don't have the stamina for syntropic agriculture. Physically, I don't have the stamina, and because of the muscle tension I've mentioned in other videos, which I'm healing. And another thing is, I just like doing a lot of different things. I don't want to just be a chop and dropper all day, but I do like chop and dropping from time to time. And so here I am chop and dropping, and this area has a row of alders heading over towards the left. And underneath them, I kind of have like an understory of elderberry, which is also meant to be chop and drop. And then I have some plum trees and an apple tree and some gooseberries and currants. And and so what I love about syntropic is when you get this effect of this tall, narrow, bare trunk and a little crown of leaves at the top, which they do on purpose because it means you kind of have the microclimate effect of the tree. It's giving you some part shade, which I mentioned is really important because forest knots are bringers of the light, which is what I'm talking about in this video. But at the same time, there's less evapotranspiration, so they're not using up as much water as a tree with a full crown would. And then it just gives you that effect where it opens up the light underneath it, but you still have the forest effect of a tall tree. So like it's something I really enjoy doing, and hopefully you guys can kind of get a glimpse of that, a feel for that. But you really have to walk in it, especially the before and after is amazing. Like before you prune and after you prune, the light effect that happens is just incredible, and it brings such like a nice ambiance to the space, and hopefully a little more light to the understory and the ground cover level so they can get their photosynthesis, and you get all this free mulch from right above. You don't have to bring it in. So I have some young potatoes that might seem to be in a shady spot for potatoes. And they're actually kind of in a woodland environment. And so I am going to be bringing the light, here's another one, to the potatoes. I've used February, March and now half of April. Getting photosynthesis out of these willows, which I'm about to prune, that are around this little potato patch. And now I'm going to be opening up some more southern and western sun for these potatoes, while getting that free local 2 feet away mulch from the willow cuttings, which break down pretty nice and fast. So there's nothing much to tell here. It's just pruning these willows at about at least 5 feet, so over 1.50 m. Because I do have them spaced closely enough that if a chicken tried to make a little leap over the fence, that the poles of the willow would interfere with their wings and kind of deter them from jumping into this little garden. And so rather than having to bring in mulch, I have mulch literally at an arm's length from my garden. And on top of that, I have beautiful natural living posts instead of having to bring in posts from somewhere else. I was just patient. I stuck willow rods in the ground. And now, 2-3 years later, they're thick and strong enough to be reliable posts. So yeah, just easy, relaxing, very low effort in case you need to do something that doesn't take much effort. And using nature to your advantage through patience and cycles, and saying, hey, I'd like to have willow posts here in a couple of years, and you stick rods in the ground, and then in a couple of years you have the willow posts. If you're not in a rush, you can make fencing for free and quite fun. About the hazel rods that are hurdled in and outside of the fence, they have been here for about 5 years now. Feeling their texture, I think I'll get another couple of years out of them. So if you enjoy hurdling and you have also hazelnut bushes around, the hurdling probably could last 5 to 7 years depending on your climate, maybe more if your climate's a little drier. We actually have a pretty humid climate, so I'm surprised that the hazel rods have lasted this long. And yeah, this is just me cutting stuff. So enjoy it. Alright, so now this little area I'm going to plant, it already has those potatoes, but I'm going to be planting with other things, is getting light because I pruned that edge. Hope it's visible. I'm learning how to film these things. It's very, very not easy to film nature. My little living willow, free mulch supplying, hazel hurdle fence bracing western edge of this garden. I've opened up and now I see more light getting to the ground level, so I'm happy with that. It's about 6-7 p.m. in the afternoon. It's not really nighttime here until about 9, so there we go. And here we have the potatoes again after 2 weeks, now with greater light. They've definitely popped, especially if you see them in person. You can tell they've popped thanks to this maybe extra hour or 2 now of nice warm light coming in the afternoon, maybe almost 3 in some parts of it. If you watch this video and it is most likely the future, feel free to ask any questions in the comments about how this little garden is going, what else I'm planting in this wordle area. If you have questions about how exactly I made the wordle, you can let me know. I'm happy to interact. And On to the next example. Alright, so final example. This is an area that we've left fallow because, well, we've never really been able to cultivate the entire land because we're just a couple of little gardeners. And as you can see, just a little area that got grassy because although it's a shady spot, it's not shady until now, about mid-May. And that's something that's really cool about this variety of empress tree I have, Paulonia tomentosa, is that it doesn't fully come into leaf, like fully thicken out until around now, mid-May. And so this means that in mild climates, places where you can do something, grow something during the winter, you can get a little crop before it's fully in leaf. So let's say like a fast kohlrabi, fast radishes, cool climate things in general that you would have planted in November, December, January, February would have time to kind of fill out their cycle and offer a crop before this becomes fully leaved. And let's say your cauliflowers are just bolting and starting now. You could just prune now this empress tree and you'd get enough light now in May with the high sun, the sun coming in from every angle. You'd have enough light now for this crop to finish off. In my case, I got some grass, which if you have livestock is a good thing. Or if you like mulch, is also a good thing. So what I'm about to do is actually something I would have liked to do in the autumn, because I'm going to prune this empress tree to let in a little bit more light. But I would have liked to do this at the end of autumn so that all the material that I prune and now pile up, which you're going to see, maybe are seeing already, pile up, would have broken down by now and offered a nice little fertility boost for a little garden that you could plant here. So first step is just I cut back the grass with a scythe and I'm going to pile it up because I want to use it later on to mulch the pruning that I'm going to pile up, because now that it is May and it is going to get hotter and drier, it's already pretty warm and dry. I want to mulch the pile of pruning so that they stay humid on the inside and break down. Second step, I am just pruning this empress tree. Perfect, score. Perfect, score. Just where I wanted it. Perfect. I'm kind of experimenting. I'm going to prune mostly its sides, and the more vertical branches I'm going to leave. And I'm going to see how much light I get afterwards and what I can do with that amount of light during this summer season that's starting now. Kind of late spring, summer season. Third step, I just break everything down. As you see, breaking it down, loppers and little handsaw. And fourth and final step, I just take the mulch pile that I got from the grass clippings that I cut and I mulch it. So simple enough. Thank you for watching. Feel free to ask any questions. And yeah, this is the first video I've made that has to do with sort of sharing the kind of activities that I'm doing in the forest garden, and a little bit blended with the more nature management, ecosystem participation aspects of what it is to me to be a forest knot, which is a hybrid of artist, adventurer, and naturalist. And I'm going to be finding my storytelling style as I try these videos. And yeah, so I'm going to be figuring out my storytelling style. I like this voiceover. I like this film myself and then voiceover later style. But yeah, feel free to comment, ask questions, offer feedback on how you'd like to see presented the work that we're doing here, and if you're curious about it and what you kind of things you'd like to see and what you're interested in, let us know. Let us know. And all right, bye guys. Thanks for watching.